Hi! If you travel to visit friends or family, I'm sure you've been tempted to take them a cake, but the logistics of taking it on a flight or in a fully packed car seem too daunting. In this tutorial, I'm going to share the steps and essential packing list to transport a cake in your suitcase, and also how to do this with cupcakes. Of course, you can bake, frost and decorate your cake, put it in a cake caddy or cake box, and fly with it on your lap or under the seat in front of you. But if your trips look anything like my family trips, with enough suitcases to move countries even though you're going somewhere for just a weekend, that's probably not a realistic option. If you do choose to do this, use a box at least 4 inches bigger than your cake, so that there's enough space around it so it doesn't get damaged if you knock the box, or if you have to put it through a security scanner at the airport. And use masking tape or a non-slip mat to secure the cake board in place inside the box. Okay, so to travel with the cake in your suitcase, the first step is to bake your cake, and you can do this up to a month before you travel. Bake the cake as normal, level and divide it if you're going to do that, and I strongly suggest drizzling the cake layers with simple syrup to keep them moist, since you're going to be freezing them, and because the cake probably won't be eaten on the same day you take the layers out of the freezer. Simple syrup is just equal parts of water and sugar simmered together until the sugar dissolves, and then once it cools you can brush or drizzle it over your cake. Next, make your frosting. This is my 4-minute buttercream frosting, and you can click the link in the screen or in the description below this video to watch the tutorial and get the recipe for how to make it. If you're using buttercream as a filling, assemble your cake now, spreading buttercream onto each cake layer and lining them up evenly on top of each other to build a straight cake. I don't recommend assembling before travelling if you're using fillings that need to be refrigerated, like lemon curd or whipped cream, because they'll be out of the fridge for several hours while you travel. Also, only assemble your cake at this point if your filling is quite stiff, like buttercream. If you're using pudding or custard or fresh fruit or other unstable or slippery fillings, your cake won't be as stable when you travel. For these fillings, skip the assembly and move straight on to the next step, which is to freeze the cake. If you've assembled your cake, wrap the entire thing in cling film or saran wrap, doing 2 layers to make sure it's airtight and that nothing will leak later. The cake will be fine in the freezer for up to a month. Please click the thumbs up button if you're enjoying this tutorial. If you're using refrigerated or unstable or slippery fillings, freeze the cake layers individually, as they are. You should also wrap them in cling film. You'll assemble the cake when you get to your destination, where you can buy fresh whipped cream or fruit or whatever else you're using as the filling. Now put your buttercream into a Ziploc bag and press it flat or fold it in half, depending on the size of the bag, and freeze that as well. In my freezer you can see the frozen assembled cake, this Ziploc bag of frosting here, and behind it frozen cupcakes, which I'll cover later in this tutorial. On the day you travel, take the cake and frosting out of the freezer and place them in a cool box or a lunch box or ice box with an ice pack, or several ice packs if you can fit them. The cake and frosting will defrost on your journey, so by the time you get there, they'll be thawed and ready for the final steps. But you want this to happen as slowly as possible, and that's the reason for the ice packs. Place the cool box in your suitcase, and you'll also need an offset spatula. If you're going somewhere with no kitchen utensils, you'll also need to pack a plate, which can just be a plastic plate, and ideally a rubber or silicone spatula as well. But if you're going to be at someone's house, they'll probably have one there for you to use. Optionally, you can pack any decorating supplies, like a piping bag and piping tip, or sprinkles. When you get to your destination, take the cool box out of your suitcase and remove the cake and frosting. I'm putting mine in a bowl, but you can use it straight out of the Ziploc bag to minimise tools and the number of dishes to wash up. Set up your tools. You'll need a plate and an offset spatula. Put a dollop of frosting onto the middle of the plate and press your cake on top so that it sticks to the frosting. Now cover the whole cake in frosting using your offset spatula, trying to get an even coating over the whole cake that's thick enough to cover up the cake so you can't see it through the frosting. I have a tutorial on how to get perfectly smooth frosting, but it's not realistic when you're working without a turntable and on a plate with these raised edges, which means that even if you took a frosting smoother with you, you wouldn't be able to line it up straight against the sides of the cake. I like to apply texture with my offset spatula, making these swishes by swiping it up all around the sides of the cake, wiping it off on my bowl whenever the frosting starts to build up. I have a whole tutorial on easy ways to frost a cake with different textures that don't need a turntable or any special tools, just an offset spatula and a piping bag and tip, and I've put the link in the screen and in the description below. I'm adding some sprinkles as a final touch, and voila! A delicious, homemade cake made with love and easily transported, in this case to Seattle. For cupcakes, the steps are very similar. Bake the cupcakes as normal, arrange them in a Tupperware, and freeze them until the day you travel. It's important that the cupcakes fit snugly in the Tupperware, so they don't move around when you travel, and you can use scrunched up paper towels to fill any spaces in the Tupperware. Freeze buttercream in a Ziploc bag, and then on the day you travel, you can either put the cupcakes and frosting and an ice pack in a cool box in your suitcase, or if they don't fit, you can wrap them in a plastic bag and then a towel, so that if there's any condensation as they defrost, they won't wet anything in your suitcase. Also pack a piping bag and your favourite piping tip. Mine is a Wilton 1M. When you get to your destination, the cupcakes and frosting will have thawed. Squeeze the frosting into your piping bag and pipe swirls of frosting onto the cupcakes, adding sprinkles if you like. Ta-da! I hope this tutorial was helpful and that you can take a cake or cupcakes with you the next time you travel. I'd love to see your experiences. Please tag British Girl Bakes in your photos on Instagram or Facebook, or email them to me at emily@britishgirlbakes.com. Thanks for watching! Subscribe to my YouTube channel for a new cake decorating tutorial every week.